We're here today with Alex Haley, the author of Roots, and that was a Pulitzer Prize-winning book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it did win. Luckily, it won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award, those two, and you know, a good number of lesser-known ones. Some I had not even been aware of myself, but it was just one of those books that became a phenomenon. And I say that not because I wrote it, you might have written it, or whomever, but every now and then some book comes along that just seems to touch the right button and gets accepted in a way that is not routine at all, even for bestsellers. And Roots was fortunate as such a book.
It certainly was, and we're really honored to have you here in Unalaska.
Well, I've been telling people, you know, it's kind of funny. It's not every day you get to Unalaska, you know.
This is true. It was really a phenomenon when Roots came out. You not only started a complete resurgence in an interest in genealogy and family histories in this country, perhaps even worldwide, but you're also responsible for the whole genre on TV of miniseries since Roots was so successful.
Yeah, well, you know, to take the latter part first, you're right, and that also was just a chance thing. You know, Roots was the second of what we now call the miniseries. I think that the phrase or the words miniseries were created around Roots. Before it, there had been Rich Man, Poor Man. And when Roots came out, originally it was planned to be shown 8 weeks, 2 hours each week or something like that. But there was so much prediction that it was going to flop and go under that toward the end, I am told, the network people decided the best way to get rid of this thing quick was to show it every night consecutively. And that's how the form that we now call the miniseries was born. It just happened like that. And then the genealogical thing of which you speak, I think that maybe was the button that was pushed in Roots that I did not realize myself. I was simply writing about my family. And when you look at Roots in the larger sense, it evokes something that applies to all of us. Virtually everybody comes from some family which has some ancestry and some common ground. Another thing that played a role in it that I certainly was not aware of, I'm talking all this from hindsight, is that, see, genealogy originally was a snob appeal thing. Originally it was the people who could trace their families back to royalty, to the conquerors, to the big deal people, whomever they were. And it was generally felt by other people that they didn't have anything to be genealogical about. They just sort of came into being like something planted. It came up every spring. The truth of the matter, though, is that the peasant has just as much genealogy as the prince. The probability is, in fact, that the peasant has a stronger bloodline than the prince because of the mixing of bloodlines in the course of the, quote, lesser people's, unquote, pattern. And so Roots just kind of somehow, in great luck, fell into the midst of all these factors. In a country, the United States is a very young country as countries go, and a country that is a nation of immigrants, it's said, and it's true, and one which has this vast array of source bloodlines from Europe, from Africa, from sundry places. You know, the melting pot of the world, it's called, and that's what happened, I think.
Well, you've made such an impact. Has all this success that you've achieved been deeply satisfying to you, or do you feel some pressure now to come up with something as successful or more so?
Well, it's been, I would say, deeply fulfilling more than anything else. And I'm saying that in the sense that, you know, any writer, or most writers, who have the luck one day to be what's called successful, most such writers really remember more the poor days then they revel in the better off days. Uh, I am in my psychic self much more keyed to the younger magazine writer who was scurrying around looking for something that maybe somebody would buy if I wrote it well enough, and running to the post office every day, maybe twice a day, to see had something been purchased. Um, it is in a way very fulfilling when something happens down the line, not just to a writer, to a painter, to a jewelry maker, to anybody, when down the line you do, quote, succeed. I should imagine here it would be the same if a young man came up here, a young woman came up here and went to work on a fishing boat. And then X years later, they owned a boat. Fulfillment. You had done something well, and you had been rewarded, and your concern is not so much the dollars as it is a sense of, I haven't wasted myself. I have done something that has gathered to me the fruits of my labor. And then the extremely exciting thing then is to share those things, help somebody else. To me, that's the greatest sense of fulfillment I know. What was the second part you asked me, something I didn't answer?
Did you feel pressured to
Yeah.
better roots? Or?
No, I don't at all. And I'm often asked that. I don't know why I forgot that you had said that. No, you know the way I feel, Strauss, that's your name, Strauss, about that is, I think books to an author are kind of like parents to children, or children to parents, put it in another way. To use a metaphor to make up one, it's kind of that children and books tend to come along one at a time. And each one, you give everything you know, all the love, all the care, all the preparation, all the raising, as we say in my native South, that you know how. And then a time comes with books and with children when they grow up that you put them out there in the world. And at that point, you just sit and watch. You don't really know what's going to happen. And I know it happens with books, and I suspect, and I also know it happens with children. It may be the one that you secretly thought was smarter, was sharper, had more going, who was going to probably do better out there in the world. It may not be that one. It may be another. And so that's to me, the thrill about books is you just do the best you can with each one. To tell you the truth, fun as it may seem, I hardly, if people didn't mention Roots to me a lot, I wouldn't think about it very much, because that was back there. Roots was published in 1976. That's this coming September, that's 8 years. And I don't think about that book. I'm worried about what I'm doing now, a book called Henning, about my little town, hometown in western Tennessee. And I'm working on a television show that I think is going to be a very exciting series, a weekly series. And these are the things that occupy my thinking now. That's why I'm here, as a matter of fact, in Dutch Harbor. What's that other thing you said, Unalaska? When I'm working hard, writing hard, I have this habit. I love to go out to sea on freighters, and I ship out as a passenger on a freighter. And this specific time, while I'm here, as you know, the freighter I got this time was with American President Lines. And American President Lines has the finest freighters from a passenger point of view there are. And this particular vessel, the President Taylor, left Seattle, came to Dutch Harbor here to pick up, I understand, a lot of frozen fish. And we will leave here this evening later and go to Yokohama and deposit the fish with the people in Japan. And then we go to Kobe, Japan, and then back to Seattle. And the round-trip voyage will have been in the area of 25, 26 days. Now, I will have in that time had 25 or 26 absolutely lovely days of working much, much more than I could work if I were home in Beverly Hills, because there's so many things coming at you there.
Right.
I'm so successful I can't work anymore. That's the ironic thing. It's true.
Well, you have to get away from it all in order to work.
This is a great place to get away from it all.
And
Yeah.
even here, you've got snagged for an interview.
No, well, that's fine. As I told you, you don't get here every day. And the television, I was thinking of saying a while ago, this is one television studio I will remember. I've never been in one like this, and I've been in a whole lot. Yeah.
I'm sure that's true. What are your impressions of the Unalaska area?
Pioneering times. That this is probably, at least in my exposure, this is a community that is probably more like the gold rush days, the Wild West, not the more dramatic aspects of them, with the horses charging down the street or something like that, but people exploring, people reaching out, people dealing firsthand with the land, with the sea, and things like that. I'm very moved by, and I know I'll be thinking a lot about this place when I leave here, and even years to come. And I'm seriously thinking about seeing if I cannot come back here, maybe a year from now when I understand the weather's really good, like now in August, whatever. But I'm very taken by things like someone would point out some little houses or whatever, not even houses, up on a distant hillside, and tell me that they were where people come and live, and they don't have running water, and they don't have light, and it's like homesteading. I guess there is actual homesteading here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that thrills me. Yeah, I find it incredibly more exciting than me, living in a condominium on Wilshire Avenue in Beverly Hills. That's not exciting. You just push buttons and things happen. This is exciting. Yesterday, we went fishing. 3 of us. Every one of us caught some fish in, where was Margaret's Bay? And it was just, it made me think about when I was writing Roots in the early part in the Gambia River, when Kunta Kinte was a little boy and his mother had him in her boat, and she and the other ladies would fish on their way home from the rice fields. And there was a fish, what was the name of that fish? It escapes me right now, but it was a big fish, and it had a habit of leaping up out of the water and slapping down broadside. It made a big sound. And the women had some kind of way, skill, that they could sort of see motions in the water that told them where such a fish was about to surface. And they were very expert with their canoes, and they would dart over and have a short oar. And they would sometimes be able to hit that fish and stun it and grab it before it knew what was happening and get it in the boat. And I thought about that out at Margaret's Bay. The fish were not as big as those in that particular African sequence, but they were jumping up with this almost, buddy, we're here, now catch us. And they ignored everything we put out there until they decided to bite it. And then they bit, and we all caught whatever fish we caught in a space of 20 minutes, I would say. And it was very thrilling, and what made that particular thing for us yesterday really was a lovely young fellow whom I met here at the store, and his name, let me see, I wrote down, I had made up my little list. Every time I go somewhere, I make a list of the people whom I meet to write them letters and, thank them and things like that. And forgot what his name was.
Was that Andre?
Yeah, Andre Mays, I think his last name is. Andre Mays, who knew how to fish. He put the line on the reels for us, right? And then the line we had bought was too heavy, and so he had some more line in his tackle box. And he just fixed it up, and then he would take the fish off for us and everything. And we were talking about it on the ship today, that Andre made our voyage, actually. He really did. He's just a marvelous young fella. And that was thrilling. I understand you have an island thick with rabbits, Hog Island?
That's right.
Somewhere. And then someone was telling me, a lady I met, let me get here my list. In the little time I was here, I just met charming people. I met Miss Christina Rogers, you know her? And her daughter Tina. We were driving along, and they were telling me about how people go from here to an island, the name of which I can't remember, and catch caribou. and that people they eat caribou meat, and all of this just will stay in my head a long time. And I met yesterday a young lady whose name
Joe Fagan.
Fagan, short, dark hair, cute young lady, who it was just fascinating. He told me she was she had worked as a cook on a fishing boat, and I think she's preparing to do that again. And that she had been thinking about writing a book about this. And you know, it's kind of a funny thing, Strauss. If you're a writer who has had the luck to become a name, as the expression goes, you become almost besieged sometime by people who are coming saying to you, look, I've got something that's a book, great book, I'll give you 50% if you write it, or whatever, or you could help me do this. And until you just kind of run from them sometimes. I love to go to sea, for instance, because I don't meet those people. I'm not putting down on those people, it's just that you can't do all those things and do your own work. And the irony is, every now and then such a writer, me and others, will just by chance meet somebody who has something that they're not trying to press on you, but you hear them talking about it, and the writer in you gets excited about what they've got, and you start looking them up to encourage, yeah, go ahead, that's a book. And so with Joe Fagan, that the more I think about it, the material would make a really excellent book. A young lady out as a fishing boat cook. In that, and I was telling her what I want her to do is keep a very careful notes every day of the minutiae, everything that happens. And in the course of such a book, she could tell it almost day by day, like a diary. This happened. It should be told in low key, not trying to be dramatic. The drama is in the low key handling of this, so forth, everything, you know, that happens. What she cooked, what people said, dialogue, conversations. What about the loneliness? What about the hard work? And I understand it's very, very hard work out on those boats. And in the course of it, one of the things I hope I see her before I leave was to say she could also salt in things about this community, though she may be on the boat at sea. And I think the book might well be the day, maybe the day before she sets foot on the boat to sail out, and then end with the season ending, so that the reader would vicariously share a season. And having lived here, she could bring in things, all kinds of things, like the work you do. She knows you, you know her. So it would be easy to say, I remember something about Strauss, who goes out and meets people who are ill or who are hurt on vessels. And what you do is dramatic, you know.
I'm sure she would be delighted to hear your encouragement.
She is. And the only reason I'm reacting to that is because it is a book. I know that. My instincts tell me that. Now, there's a lot of things between that and the book's publication. One of the factors is how well, say, does Joe write. That's a real factor. But the many books have the problem before you even get to the writing that they're dull. The material is dull, you know. I wouldn't write a book right offhand about Hog Island, you know, although maybe a good writer could. But it wouldn't be a book for just anybody to tackle, about 10,000 rabbits on an island, you know. But this area is a fantastic book. I don't know what the pitch would be yet. I'd have to live here. But obviously it's a great book. It's modern pioneering. Somebody said that. Was it you said, the last frontier of the last frontier? Somebody said that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been up here 4 years, and I've found this to be just an incredible opportunity for anyone with any kind of initiative and energy to come up here and become things that you never could have accomplished down in the lower 48.
I'm sure that's true. And there are things, you know, one of the things, obviously I'm interested in peoples and ethnics and backgrounds and you know, the whole thing, Aleutians. And I was fascinated yesterday to meet my first, to my knowledge, Aleut people. There was this lady, and I got her name, I had to look at this to pronounce it, Galina Merkuliev, do you know her? Merkuliev. And her brother, who is Leonte, yeah. And they were down at the ship when we came down yesterday, and I just had the wish that I could sit with them for hours and just talk about the Aleut history. Now, my first perception or my first feeling about how thrilling and rich that history is, I'd gotten from a lady in an entirely different background down at the APL, you know, the secretary, not the secretary, but she's I guess the administrative assistant down there, the tall, nice-looking lady at the APL office. Do you know her?
Judith McDonald.
Yeah, Judith McDonald. Yeah, you know her? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but Judith was talking to me about how fascinated she was with going up into I guess it's seashores after storms and picking up bones and rock artifacts. And I was saying, do you go dig? She said, you don't have to dig. Said after a storm, it's washed up. And then she was telling me with her how thrilled she was with the fact that the Aleut people had been here for, I think she said, 1,000 years. And then to meet the Aleut brother and sister was a good part of the thing where I just began to play with the idea, let me see if I can schedule to come back here next year, just because I'm not looking to write in a book or anything like that, but I just like to enrich myself with more knowledge of more people and more places. You know, I think this comes out of Strauss, the fact that I believe devoutly that the greatest need existent for we human beings, wherever we are, whomever we are, whatever we are, is we desperately need to know more about each other than we do. We go all our lives, many of us, most of us probably, thinking about whole groups of other people with generally all too often some nickname that's either derogatory or humorous. And attached to the nickname as a rule will be what I like to think of as, say, a pronoun cliches. They do this, they wear this, they act like that, they something other. If you go to lots of people and you say, fishermen, speaking of fishermen, they tell you all about fishermen in 4 easy sentences. Or you say Eskimos, and here's a rich, rich culture disposed of in 3 sentences. Aleuts, same thing. Whatever, you know. And that is something we desperately need to quit doing, because each and every one of us has a fascinating history, culture, if we only knew it. Most of the time we don't, and we ignore the fact that there was one about other people. A lot of people don't even know their own cultural history. You know, that's true.
Yeah, these stereotypes. It's so refreshing to meet someone who's really trying to break down those stereotypical categories.
Well, I just feel that, I guess it's like the thing you were asking me before we went on there about how does it feel to be, quote, celebrity, to be, quote, famous or something like that. I feel about those things kind of, if I just had to deal with just, wow, look at me, I'm a celebrity or something, I'd feel foolish. You know, I am a person like you are a person, like I was a person before all this happened. And I hope to remain one while it happened. But the main thing is that somebody put it well. I can't remember who, but some lady said this. If it is inevitable, once this has happened to you, that you are accorded these status or whatever, the thing is to use the things that go with it in a positive way, as best you can interpret that, and to share as best you can the good things of that, and to try to make the world a better place as much as you can. And I believe in that very much. And the things I try to expound upon are the things like we need to know each other, but I kind of like the idea that I tend to be almost around the world now synonymous with that general thing of people getting to know more about their own families, of people getting to know more about each other, of interaction between peoples. You know, today when we were coming up here, you know, it was a very moving thing to me. You, Strauss, did. There was some people walking up the street, and there was this lady having a hard time in high heels with cobblestones. And it was pure instinct. There must have been, 10 of them? And we were in your van. And there were already 6 of us in your van. And pure instinct, you pulled over and stopped and the door open. And the people who came in happened to be Russian people. None of us could exchange a word with them. They had come here together on a research or some kind of vessel. And what was very moving to me in that little dynamic as we loaded all you could possibly load in your van and drove on, was here was a human being who had responded as a human being to other human beings. Didn't matter to you what they were, that they were Russians and all the papers tell us, ooh, you know, they're this and that and the other. The point was they were helped by you, and the world is a little bit better place because of that gesture. I really felt that, and that's true. Nothing there, nothing that happened, carried forth the things we are told to feel about the Russian people or the somebody else people that we are against right now. Another time when you were born, they were our great allies, you know, and so forth. And maybe all these things say more about us than they do about the facts. The important thing to me is what you did today, not what diplomats are going up, you know, shall we be critical or shall we attack or shall we verbally attack? Let's hope to God to keep it to verbal or whatever. But the important thing is people to people, and that's what you did today, and it was very moving, and you never thought about it since. No, but it's the truth. It says something about you, and it says something about we human beings, that let us hope that if we were walking along a cobbly, rocky road in Russia, that somebody would stop and pick us up with the same little concern about where we came from, you know.
I've never tried to hold it against the Russian people what their politicians do.
That's right. Well, let's hope none of us holds it against anybody with our politics. You know what I think? I've often thought that a marvelous way to end much of the world's trouble would be to take all the political leaders, whomever they were, and give them each a big rock to hold in their hands and put them all in a room and say, now you all get it together. And then maybe we would get this mess settled.
Like squabbling children.
Yeah,
you guys work it
out. That's
out.
right. You know, and that, whoever was going to stand up and fight everybody else with a rock, you take your deal with it in there, and then when you get it done, come out and talk to us, the people. I really have.
Well, I wish you were running for office, I'll tell you.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't be too good with a rock, but I think that I would certainly, if I made any errors, it would be, and of course I'd make errors, you're human, but they would be in the direction of we the people rather than making such confrontational things of everything.
Well, I hope you make it back to this area, and
I would love to.
If ever you did write a book about this area or the Aleutian Islands or the Aleut people, it would just be terrific because to my knowledge there has never been a history written of that culture.
I'm going to certainly work toward, through the context I am making here now, including yourself, see if I can't come back here for a few weeks anyway. I know I couldn't stay for very long, but I would sure enjoy coming here. I'd love to just explore and catch some more fish too.
Well, it's a very rich area, just full of opportunity and beautiful sights to see.
I see, it is.
Characters to meet.
That's great. I'd love to. I really would. Okay. I guess I have to get back to the ship now.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming and meeting with us and sharing some of yourself with us.
Well, my pleasure. I just enjoy it.
It's a great honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, they hold on too.
They do?
Oh, they hold on.
Dead or alive.
They hold on for dear life.
I always tell you the full story afterwards.
I thought that there's crabs up here with those long-legged.
King crabs.
Yeah.
Those things will break your fingers if
Oh, they will?
they get hold of you.
kings?
Yeah, big red kings.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see a seagull running around with only one leg.
Oh, you kidding?
No, I'm not.
So you still wish to try Margaret's Bay, or?
Well, whatever. Every 10 minutes, somebody tells us
Yeah,
to
I
go to
think
sleep.
you might as well stick with the current time.
All right, well, let's go to the marketplace.